So we'd like to introduce to Wrestle Magic an ECW original, a former ECW television champion, a former ECW tag team champion as part of the Pitbulls, Gary Wolf. Hello, Gary. How are you?
Awesome. How you guys doing today?
We're very good, thank you.
It's awesome. All right. Glad to have you here, Mr. Wolf. So I've heard recently that you have released a book. Is that true?
Yes. It's called The Pitbull Unleashed. Actually, here, I'm going to show it to you guys.
Oh, it's awesome.
Right there. Yeah, that's the cover. Missy Hyatt wrote the back. Todd Gordon wrote the forward. It's a pretty good book. First one I ever wrote. Right now, it's number 6 out of wrestling books, which is pretty good. Number 49 out of all sports books on Amazon, which are hundreds. So it's getting up there. It's getting pretty good hits. And people who know the Pitbulls, seen the Pitbulls, but never knew the behind stories of the Pitbulls, it's cool to check out. And it's a good read.
Heck yeah, man. Nice little history for us all to hear about. And I'm glad that you were able to write and put your memoir in a way in this book so we can read it and we can retell later on about it. But without further ado, Scully, what kind of questions do we have for Pitbull number 1? This is really exciting.
Yeah. So firstly, before we speak about the wrestling, I wanted to ask more about you as a person, like growing up as a child and stuff like that, if you don't mind. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so growing up, was you always a fan of wrestling, or? Yeah,
when I was a little kid, I'd watch wrestling with my grandpa. He was Italian right off the boat, man, from Ziglian. So he had the white hair, blue eyes, and he would watch wrestling because he liked Bruno Sammartino, so I was into superstar Billy Graham, and I loved Andre the Giant. And it was cool, but I never thought I would become a wrestler, because those guys were bigger than life back then,
Yeah, like my dad always told me about, because obviously I'm 38, he always used to tell me about giant for the UK wrestling, like Giant Haystacks and Mick McManus and stuff like that. And when he showed me him, I was like, you found this, compared to what I seen, the entertainment side, it was very different, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Especially in the UK, I think it's always different, Wrestling's different in all different countries, so different styles.
I'd definitely say American wrestling is 20 times more entertaining.
Yeah.
That may be true.
Depending on what you're into, you know what I'm saying? So
that's fair. So along with the childhood portion, I wanted to ask you, were you ever a amateur wrestler in school or anything like that? Or
yeah, I did that 1 year, 168 class, and then I ended up doing I was more a football player. I was a linebacker, defensive end. I like to hit people. That's what I like to do. So, but then when I got out of high school, when I was younger, you got to realize my dad sent me to military academy. I was in military school because I'd go to schools, and if I got picked on, I'd end up beating the shit out of the person, and then I'd get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So, my dad put me in this school. Then I went to a Greenway Academy, which was for bad kids, and some kid was picking on me there, and I threw him down a flight of steps. I didn't care at that point, So then my dad sent me to military academy. It was called Hargrave Military Academy in Chatham, Virginia. Badass school. Ran by all Vietnam vets. Tough, mean motherfuckers, man. They beat the shit out of me every day. It was rough, man, but it was good because it got me tough. You know what I mean? I was there from like 9 years old to like probably 14, 15. When it was time to go to high school, I went back to my regular high school. And people didn't even recognize me because, I had big arms and I was in shape, because military school made you tough. I was going to be an airborne ranger, special forces. So that was my plan. I had my own businesses on the boardwalk and shit like that. My grandpa invented the first poker machine. And I don't know if you've been on the boardwalk where you shoot the water gun game and you go into a clown's mouth and it blows up the balloon. Well, my grandpa invented that.
Really?
So all them carny games, that's where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? It was very weird growing up because what the hell? Vincent Price used to always be at my grandpa's house, which was very odd. You know what I mean? Because he was a movie star. But my grandpa had friends with everybody. He was just that type of person. But definitely a carny. So I grew up as a carny on the boardwalk. I would always have a skateboard in my hand. Period. You know what I mean? If I wasn't in military school, I'd be surfing, boogie boarding, BMX biking. I always was doing some kind of sport,
That's
then
fair.
eventually bodybuilding got in my mind. So I started working out young, which was good because when I decided to become a wrestler, I already had a pretty good frame going. You know what I'm saying? So we were bigger than most tag teams, you know what I'm saying, that young. So.
I see. So one last question before I pass back off to Scully, but I do want to ask you, do you think the military academy was beneficial for you, and do you think it really set you up for your wrestling career?
Yeah, because you couldn't, there was only 3 rules. You can't lie, cheat, or steal. Everything else goes. You have a problem with somebody, you go to the mats and you fight. You don't tell the colonel or the major, it's none of their business. They don't want to hear about it. You know what I mean? So my first year, it was like I had 168 hours that they're called tours. And you have only 2 hours a day of free time. And you could do, play football or, do whatever you want to do, but you got 2 hours. My 2 hours were staring at a wall, getting waterboarded. I had 168 hours, man. I broke the record. And I was like, fuck, my second year there, when I got there, I said, I can't beat these guys. I got to join them. I decided, let me just go with it. And they broke me down and changed me. You know what I mean? I was a sniper. I hit a quarter 100 yards away.
Wow.
In seventh grade. So no bullshit. I was ready. I wasn't even going to go to West Point. Like they had me set when I graduated high school there. I go to West Point for 4 years. I told them, no, I'm not going to college because I'm going to end up going to a war. And, I walk on the field as a lieutenant. You know what I'm saying? Right off the bat. But I'm not going to go there to college for 4 years while those guys are fighting, you know what I mean? And then pop up. I said, fuck that. I don't need to go to college. I was already, you guys taught me what to do. You know what I mean? That's shoot people in the fucking head. And that was it. So I said, I don't want to go to college. I'd rather go into the service and get those 4 years in there and not just get out 4 years sooner. You know what I'm saying? That's how I looked at it. And they had respected that, and they were cool with that, But then once I seen, I was going to be airborne ranger, that's where they drop you off on the opposite side, So, but I seen what they did to my uncle, and because he was in the military, and that's when I decided, in 9th grade, 10th grade, I want to go back to high school. I want to get out of there. That's what I did.
Yeah, that's fair. My father and both grandfathers actually were all airborne, so I hear you. They're not quite the same as everybody else kind of perceives anyone else, so I understand completely what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Mad respect for your family, man.
Appreciate it. Scully, you're up, buddy.
So, how did you transfer to wrestling from there?
I was at a gym working out. It was called a Tillis Gym in Wildwood, New Jersey. And WWE would come in and do. This is when they were taping Raw. They weren't doing live yet. So they were going to the convention center to tape Raw. So the owners of the gym came up to me and my partner, a friend of mine named Andy Bernowski. He's Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, okay.
Big guy, the real big guy.
Yeah,
that's Andy. He's a friend of mine. And then another guy named Waldo. He had passed away, but his wrestling name was Crybaby Waldo. Big guy, like 400 or 500 pound guy. He was huge. So they asked us, yo, do you want to do security? And we were like, fuck yeah, that's cool. British Bulldogs are going to be there. A lot of good big names were there. So we were like, hell yeah. So we snuck in the building Monday afternoon before the show. It wasn't till Monday night. So we snuck in and we jumped in the ring, man. And we didn't know what we were doing. We just, started hitting the ropes, taking bumps, and before you know it, that ring whooped our ass, man, so bad. Like, I couldn't go to the gym for 2 weeks. That's how sore my body was. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to take a bump. You know what I mean? I remember Dick Worley was sitting in the fucking audience, sitting in the crowd, in the chairs. Nobody was in the building, just him. He was just sitting there watching us, And then I sat next to him and went up and started talking to him. And he's like, who's that big blonde guy? I was Andy, of course. And I go, oh, that's my friend Andy. He goes, he's fucking huge. I said, yeah, he's a bodybuilder. He goes, man, he's going to be another Hulk Hogan, that guy. I said, nah. I said, this ain't for him. I said, he's going to Hollywood. And, he wants to act and shit like that, And he was like, oh, okay. And he just checked us out. And, I just remember the next day waking up being so sore. And my partner, Anthony, was just like, yeah, he was sore too, but I was, he kind of liked it. I was just like, fuck that, man. I ain't doing that shit. It's just not, you know what I mean? I don't know how to do it, And then next thing you know, I had like a hamburger cheesesteak place on the beach between Morey's Pier and Hunts Pier. So I had a beach grill, and then I had some water ice carts on the boardwalk and on one of the piers. So I'd open up every day, and I figured, let's go to the beach. And we're in the beach, about knee-high water, and we're practicing like suplexes and shit like that. And we're doing it in the beach, and in about water up to your about knees. So the water broke our fall, and we didn't really get hurt. And that's how we started learning how to fucking do shit. And then right after summer, it was wintertime, and when we went back home, and come to find out, the Monster Factory was only 45 minutes from our house, where we both lived in that town, that small town in Hamilton, New Jersey. So Anthony one day came up to me and said, yo, man, they have a pro wrestling school right there, man. The real original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, fucking opened it. It's his school. Larry Sharp runs it. Charlie Fulton trains with him. A lot of guys been in there, and been out of there. And big names, When I went there, Bam Bam Bigelow was just leaving. And the Godfather was just leaving to go to Japan. So we got in there, and he told me he signed up, and I said, well, give me like about 30 days to make a couple of hours. And I remember talking to Larry, and he goes, yeah, Anthony's been here a month. And he goes, what do you want to join? I said, yeah. And he goes, and I said, at that time it was $3,000 to join a wrestling school, a legit good wrestling school. Mm-hmm. And I told him I got $500 I could put down and I'll make payments. And he said, absolutely, no problem. And that's how it started in 1988.
Interesting. So, did you have any other notable names with you at that time? Because I believe, if I remember correctly, Raven also went through the Monster. Yeah, he went through the Monster Factory, I believe. Were there any others that were also with you at that point?
Oh, Ken Shamrock, Katanka, They were in South Atlantic with me. Vince Torelli was Shamrock. Katanka was called Chris Chavis. He was doing the Indian gimmick there. We had Ricky Steamboat working with us there. Flair would pop in once in a while. The Malenkos, the Fantastics would come in from Japan. Big John Studd would pop in. We were in the Studd stable with Robert Fuller and Matt Bourne, Maniac Matt Bourne, which was great. And we started off as baby faces there. And the Nasty Boys weren't even there yet. And I remember, I kept telling the Paul Jones and George Scott, I was like, look, man, I said, can we do a heel promo? I said, I like being babyface, don't get me wrong, but, I just have a feeling we're better heels, and he didn't believe me. So finally, after a couple of weeks, he finally got one of the tapings. He said, okay, just to shut you the fuck up, cut the fucking promo, and then I don't want to hear nothing else. And I said, okay, no problem. So we cut the promo, and he fucking got pit. His jaw hit the ground, and he threw his fucking notebook down, and he put his hands in the air, and Paul Jones just looked at us and said, you guys are natural fucking heels. You know what I mean? Like natural born killers, man. We had it in us. That's how we are. We're Philly, Jersey guys, gangsters, man. We don't give a fuck, sorry about that's how we are, and they were like, okay, well, the Nasty Boys are coming in and I guess they're going to be the baby faces. I said, yes, they are. I was like, cool. So we turned the Nasty Boys baby face. That's pretty impressive, I think. But we were lucky. Like, you got to remember, we worked for Jerry Lawler. And that was 6-7 nights a week. We worked for Jeff Jarrett and his dad. When Jarrett was a kid, you know what I mean? I think he's my age, maybe a year younger or something like that. But I was on the road with him when he was in his 20s, man. And his dad was our boss. We would do 5, 6, at least 6, 7 shows a week. So we were lucky. We were able to hit those territories, and the last one was Paul Jones and George Scott in South Atlantic, which was good because we entered in the Stud stable, and it worked out because Vince, he sent us there. I remember Cowboy Bob Orton came down to the school. Always, a lot of guys from WWE would be there. And he was in the office talking to fucking Larry. Now, he left, said goodbye to us, and then Larry said, come on in the office, I want to talk to you guys. Because we were already working for Vince in 88 and 89. While we were going to school, we were working for WWF. But we would do all, tri-state area, like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. We would do all their shows. You know what I mean? And then we got in good because Gorilla Monsoon liked us. So we started doing overseas tours with them. So I'd be on a 2-week tour in Austria. It's the Pitbulls versus Jimmy Snuka and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I mean, come on, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. I mean, that was cakewalk, easy. And we just and us, we looked at it as we're learning, and that's the best way. Nikita Koloff, fucking Magnum TA. There's so many guys out there. It's Lex Luger. They didn't go to wrestling school. They learned on the road. You know what I'm saying? So we did both, and learning on the road, especially going in 88, going to New Zealand against the British Bulldogs was fantastic. I mean, that's what got us over because those guys went back to work. And everybody talks, how was your tour? Oh, it was good, man. We worked against, these guys and they were cool. And that's what happened, because the first night was a scary night. You know what I mean? We were young kids all the way to the other side of the world going in front of 55,000 people against the British Bulldogs. And they don't want to give us a finish. They're like, we'll call it out there, see you out there. That was a test,
That's fair. And I'll be honest with you, I totally agree. You guys, you have the heel look, that intimidating stature, and just the way you guys performed in the ring so intensely, it makes sense to be heels for the two of you. And I'll be honest, this is the most good.
Yeah, even if we're baby faces, we don't change our style of work. We keep the same style, baby face and heel. And we're like the Road Warriors, man. We were in the Steiners. They booed us or they cheered us. It didn't make a difference to us. You know what I'm saying?
That's valid. And I do agree that turning the Nasty Boys baby face, that's impressive, because I feel like they were always kind of heels,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Scully, go ahead, man.
Yeah, you worked with a lot of wrestlers, a lot of big names, and you travelled all over the place. But I always wondered, like, I can imagine in my head, but how hard was it, like, for your body and your mental strength, like traveling from here to there? Like, for me, I have a job, it's only 10 minutes down the road. I go to the same boring place every day, but you got to go here, there, and everywhere.
Well, being young, it was great because, like I said, we started traveling young, like 19, 20. We weren't even, we were drinking age because it was 18 at the time until they switched it to 21, so we were already locked in. So it was cool for us. But going to the UK, going all over the world was fantastic. At one point, we looked at each other and we're like, yeah, we're getting groomed to work for Vince, but shit, man, I'm having more fun going all over the world. I really don't give a shit if I work in the United States. I'll be honest with you. That's where we were at one point, and then when we were in South Atlantic, when Japan came looking for us, out of the blue, and that was just from talk. That was from the Malenkos coming in, the Fantastics coming in, and British Bulldogs that, got to work with us, and, they talk. Everybody talks, We ended up wrestling the Wild Samoans, and it was over from there because they would all talk, because if they're doing an independent show, the booker back in them days would be like, who do you want to wrestle? And the Samoans would go, bring the Pitbulls in, they're local. And we would do it, and it was perfect. We ended up being Kevin Sullivan was like a father to me, man. You know what I'm saying? And he opened so many doors. He introduced us to Don Morocco, King Curtis, Jimmy Snuka, who ended up marrying my girl's aunt right now before he passed away. You know what I'm saying? And, it's crazy because I never realized I'd be able to be a part of the business, because back in the day, I'd look at these guys. Even the first time I was in their locker room, I couldn't believe how big men these guys were. You know what I'm saying? We were kids, man. These guys were men, and they were big. I remember Ted DiBiase this guy's a big dude. He hit me so hard I shit my pants. Okay, in the ring. No bullshit, bro. He hit me right across the face with a clothesline so hard, like I said, man, it was like, because when you got butterflies in your stomach and you're going in front of, I'd never been in front of 30-something thousand people. You know what I'm saying? When I first started, our first match was against the fucking Heart Foundation. You know what I mean? We were kids. Thank goodness Gorilla Monsoon was doing commentary with Vince McMahon, and Gorilla was tapping him on the leg. Like, look at these guys. They're only like 20 years old, 19 years old. Look at they're already built. You know what I mean? Let's get them out and let's get them on the road. Let's get them ready. And that's what happened. We were lucky,
Heck yeah, man. And I agree. People do talk. And that's something that a lot of people don't really appreciate enough, is the fact that word of mouth goes so far if you're able to get it out there enough. You just got to make everybody know, hey, I'm here, and then keep projecting that until everybody talks about you.
Oh, when I walk in a locker room, dude, I know locker room etiquette. I go up to every single person and introduce myself, shake their hand, main event, thanks for the house. You know what I'm saying? That's how I was taught, old school. You know what I mean? It never changed, never. And I've been almost 30-something, almost 40 years in the business.
Man, it's incredible, I got to say. So Where exactly did you feel that the start of your biggest successes really started to come in? When did it really all come into play for you?
Once Japan came down looking for us, and that's New Japan Pro Wrestling back in the day. That's when Hase and Sasaki had the tag belts. You know what I mean? That's when Vader and Bigelow had the heavyweight titles. You know what I'm saying? Like monsters. You know. We went to New Zealand. We had a great 2 weeks. We learned so much. They went back. They must have put the word out. The Pit Bulls are cool. They're good workers. They're young, but they're good kids. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, man, like shit just started happening. You know, the American Pit Bulls versus the British Bulldogs. You know, we drew 55,000 people in New Zealand. You know, we filled the Olympic Stadium. It was amazing. You know what I mean? Working against them guys. And we did it in 2 weeks, which was awesome. You know what I mean? We learned. We went back again against the Guerrero brothers. Okay? That's Eddie Guerrero's dad, Hondo and Mondo. Okay? And then Rey Mysterio's dad. You know, went back again against the Bushwhackers, which were the sheep herders, because they're from New Zealand as the sheep herders. They were hardcore. It was crazy. So, you know, what was good about us is, you know, I talked to Vince McMahon, you know, and I said, look, here's a contract from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Can you match this contract? If you match it, I'm staying here. If you don't, I'm going to go to Japan. Okay. There's guys that are working for Vince McMahon right now that've never been to Japan. Okay. Especially on their own. You know, they'll probably go with WWE. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I was going to Japan because they scouted us. Tokyo Joe scouted me and my partner and said, you guys are Japan material. Man, look at you. I want to see more suplexes. Because he came and he would come and visit us in North Carolina, you know. But we were kept going to NWA. I kept going to the NWA shows anytime they were in Charlotte because I was trying to get a job with them. You know, I was into the Ric Flair, the Magnum, the Arn Andersons, and the Four Horsemen. And, you know, that was more grown up, you know, to me. When I would look at WWE back then, it was all characters. It was like, you know, a comic book strip. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was great. I mean, the work was easy. I mean, you barely, I mean, I would have to make eye contact with the boss man just to make sure I knew he was hitting me. That's how light he was. You know, even Akeem, how big he was, he would drop an elbow on me. I disappeared. People would think I went through the ring. I barely felt him. I mean, you know, One Man Gang is an awesome fucking guy, man. He could work his ass off, man. These guys are, you know, I didn't realize what working was until I went to Vince McMahon and started working with them guys. You know, the Rougeau brothers and, you know, the Powers of Pain, you know, all them guys. You know, they were all there. We wrestled all of them. And it was a great experience. You know, it helped us so much. And it got us respect from them. You know what I mean? Because we were young. I mean, they could have took advantage and beat the shit out of us. You know, we would have took it. We would have gave it back as much as we could. But we don't bitch. You know, when DiBiase hit me with a clothesline, I had it coming to me. You know what I mean? Because he set up the spot. You know, he told me, he said, listen, I'm going to send Virgil over to you. This was for TV. He goes, Virgil's going to come and offer you $100. You say no, get outside the apron. Get outside the ring. When I come over to you, I'm going to come and hit you. You fucking give me a shoulder tackle and then slingshot yourself in the ring. Give me a sunset flip. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Yes, sir. You know, we go out there. I do the spot, but I try to hold him down, man. I tried to hold him down on purpose. I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking, man. Honestly, I really don't know what I was thinking because I knew he was going to nail me. He got up and he cut me off with a clothesline. Like I said, I shit my pants, man. I had to go before I had to go out there anyway. So I was probably squeezing at my ass anyway, you know. So once he hit me with that clothesline, bro, I was just like, fuck. But he came in the back room and he was waiting for me to bitch. I could just see him because he kept going like this with his hand, rubbing his jaw and opening his mouth. He was waiting for me to break his balls, Dude, I walked up, shook his hand, said, "Thank you very much." Of course, I changed and already showered, threw that shit away, came back in. When I seen him, like I said, he was waiting for me to fucking bitch. And I just said, "Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Sorry I was a little snug on the sunset." I said, the receipt, it was nice. It's all good, bro. You know what I mean? That was it. And Virgil was like, "Give me that fucking $100 bill back." He took the $100 bill back, and they both were like talking to each other as they were going away. And I heard DiBiase say, "See that? Now that guy's gonna last because he's not bitching." Because that's all he was waiting for me to say is, "Yo, what's up with the fucking being stiff?" You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say that. Number one, I had it coming to me. Number two, I'm not gonna bitch about anything ever like that. We never did that because, believe me, I potato people a lot. I'm snug. I like to wrestle strong style.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's plenty of guys, especially in the Japanese scene, who have made so much success off the strong style. Just because it's not necessarily WWE style doesn't mean that it's wrong. And I think it's a fair way to go, makes it look realistic.
Yeah, and like I said, me and Anthony, like, we were able to adapt to, like, we could do AAA, we could do Japan, we could do Puerto Rico, you name it, down south, you name it, we could wrestle it. We could wrestle every style there is. So we can adapt to anybody's style. The first tag team that Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrero wrestled in America, in New York, was the Pit Bulls. Okay? And we had a great match with them guys. I remember Paul Heyman pointing to Rey Mysterio and Juventud and saying, "You're wrestling these two guys." And I look at Paul Heyman and I said, "They look like they're 12 and 13 years old, dude. Are you sure who the fuck brought them here?" He's like, "Conan brought them here." He goes, "They're luchadors." I'm like, oh, okay. So they wear masks and stuff, so nobody will see their face. He's like, "No, nobody's going to know how old they are." I said, "I'm just saying they look 12 years old." You know what I mean? Ray is tiny, but we went out there and we actually balls to the wall, man, for like 35, 40 minutes. I mean, Paul was actually kind of pissed, and to be honest with you. He's like, "You gave him too much." I'm like, "Yeah, but it was fun." I mean, they really work great. You know what I mean? They fly all over the place. You just got to catch them. So that's what we were doing, and I ended up becoming good friends with Ray. He was a cool dude.
That's valid. Scully, go ahead, man. I don't mean to hog the spotlight.
Nah, that's all right. Yeah, I was going to ask about your relationship with your tag team partner. Like, obviously, you was a team in the ring, you was a team on television, but what about your friendship backstage?
We grew up in the same town, went to the same school. I ended up getting in trouble. I had to go to jail. So I ran into Anthony in the gym. He had his clique, I had my clique. And then we just started working out together and we became friends. And then I introduced him to my boys from the city of Philadelphia, and they would go down to Wildwood every summer, and we'd get a house down there. We'd stay the whole summer on the beach and work out at a Tillis gym, it was called. It was like a Gold's Gym, like it was just for gym rats, you know what I mean? Guys that just want to get big. And that's all we would do. And I would, like I said, I'd had my businesses on the boardwalk. So it was like a vacation and a work. I'd work all summer, but it was like a vacation. And I'd work out twice a day. It'd be like like before I would go to the beach, I'd work out. And then I would, when I would get done bouncing at the club at 2 a.m., I'd do a small body part before I go back to my place and go to sleep. So I wanted to be a bodybuilder. I mean, that's what I was getting myself ready for, at that point. And then, like I said, I found wrestling, and You know, I used to work out with Johnny Jackson, who's a pro. So, I mean, I've trained with pro bodybuilders in my day, many pro bodybuilders. The lifestyle I have eventually realized isn't for me. So that's when I realized, let me try wrestling to see what happens, And it ended up being good because we had good attitude, you know what I'm saying? You got to have, you don't have to like everybody, but you don't let them know you don't like them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like,
that's fair.
You know what I mean? It's like you got to our business is very, very, very political. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to know how to navigate your way through, and be cool with everybody. Robert Fuller would introduce me to Maniac Matt Bourne, and when I met him, I would meet Mark Callis, who's the Undertaker. I met him and Sid Vicious together because Robert Fuller trained them guys. You know what I'm saying? And meeting them, I became tight with the Undertaker at a young age. You know what I mean? He was cool with us, man. He liked us. He'd come up with good ideas and shit. I remember one time he's like, man, I want to bring you guys in and make these the dogs from hell. You know what I mean? You're in my yard. You're my fucking two dogs. You know what I'm saying? I come out with you with the chains and shit. But he would mention it to Vince, and Vince would say no because Vince wouldn't come up with the idea because that's how Vince is, If it ain't his idea, sometimes if it's his idea, you got to make him think he came up with it. He'll do it. That's how he was.
My boss is the same. He's like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's people like that. You know what I mean? You have to understand in this world, they are just people that want to fucking do it their own way. That's just how it is. So.
Right. You got to push it into their ego, let them think, oh, it was my idea. I'm the genius behind this. And then.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, man. Like the only thing I wish I would have did was work for Vince long enough to do a WrestleMania or two. And then then did whatever I was going to do. You know what I'm saying? So. I mean, once I was leaving ECW, we were going to WCW. We were signing a contract with them. We already had the deal made. I just remember calling Bischoff up to get my flight information and him telling me Vince McMahon just bought WCW and he can't sign any new talent. And it killed me, man. He was going to give me and my partner a 3-year deal for 1.5. That's a lot of money, man. He was paying them guys a lot of fucking money, man, back then. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were making $900 a piece a year. Because you got to realize Ted Turner used that wrestling company as a write-off, just like AEW's doing. You know what I mean? AEW, they're oil money, and they own the Jaguars. So all their loss is going to be at the wrestling. That's all a write-off, man. The old man gave it to Tony Khan and said, here, kid, get out of my hair. Go do something with your life. You like wrestling, so I bought your wrestling company. Now do something. So
it's a fair way to put it.
They own Fulham Football Club as well, don't they?
Believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're up. They like I said, to me, that's how I look at it. I look at it like he probably writes everything off from AEW. So they can pay all them guys what they pay them, and they don't give a shit. They don't care. I know guys that work there who tell me, they're supposed to be agents telling the guys what to do, and the guys don't listen. So it's just different era of wrestlers. So
that's fair. Moving on a little bit. So I do want to ask you, what was your experience like working in ECW and working in front of that Philly crowd? How did it feel, man?
Awesome, man. It was great because they were smart marks. They weren't stupid. So, I mean, working in that building, you have to know if you're not ready for that building and you go in there and you say you screw up a spot, the crowd will let you know and they'll never let you forget about it. So I always tell people, because they're all happy and shit. Yeah, I'm going to that building. I'm going to wrestle there. So I'd be very honest with them. I said, well, I suggest you put your thinking cap on, and they're not stupid people. They're smart marks. So if you would try to insult their intelligence by doing something stupid, they're going to tell you about it. You're going to hear about it, and they're never going to let you forget about it. So don't mess up. I always tell people that, and if you mess up, make sure you recover quickly and they'll forgive you.
That's valid. So what was the creative process like with Paul Heyman?
He would tell us what he wanted and then give us the opportunity. Now, this is something Vince wouldn't do. Give us the opportunity of using our own imagination, what we've been taught in this business to do, and put our 5-6 cents into what we're doing. You know what I mean? And we're part of the creative part, which was fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, who does that? Vince don't do that, man. I mean, I used to remember working for them, and Pritchard would come up to me, Bruce, you got to remember Bruce was working for Vince McMahon when he was 18 years old. So he understood me and Anthony because we were young. They would tell me and Anthony, you guys got 15 minutes, you know what I mean? Have a good match, and when we get up to the curtain, he would look at us and be like, all right, 4 minutes, and then we're looking at each other like 4 minutes. We talked about a match for 15. How we got to cut it down to 4 minutes. And it's like, okay, go, that's how hard it was for us to learn. And that's the position they put us in, because TV is very important. We realized, every minute counts. So it's, when Bruce Pritchard is sitting there looking at the monitors and he tells Bret Hart to go out there and cut a promo for 5 minutes and come out, Bret's out there for 15 minutes and, Bruce Pritchard's pulling his hair out, losing his mind because you're losing all that time, and that's a lot of time. So, he could trust guys like Triple H. He could trust guys like Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, because, they knew to keep to their times. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was back in the day. I'd go to shows back in the day, and first match, they don't even want to see a clothesline. You know what I mean? A couple arm drags, maybe a body slam. You know what I mean? That's about it, man. Save the rest of the killing for the main event. I had Ric Flair tell me that.
Interesting. Scully, go for it, man.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, obviously you went from wrestling normal matches to hardcore wrestling. What was that like, using weapons and such?
We were okay with it. I loved breaking tables, ladders, and chairs. I hate ladders. But I like the chairs. I like breaking tables. I was into barbed wire baseball bats. Sometimes if I'd go to Japan for FMW or Wings, that was a very hardcore company. A lot of weapons in that company as well. In both of those companies. New Japan was more, you're going against Master Chono. I'm doing an hour against Thunder Lager. They would tell me 45 minutes Pitbull against Lager. And I'm like, holy shit. Thank God I was in good shape. You know what I mean? I made sure I was in great shape before I even went to Japan. Because I was told ahead of time, you better be able to do 500 free squats, and you know what I mean. You better be ready to do an hour. You know what I mean, is what I was told. So me and my partner were jacked, when we first went to Japan, man. I mean, we were fucking in shape like motherfuckers, man. I mean, we looked like bodybuilders, but we were wrestling shape, ready. 3-week tour, first tour. It was rough. We were there with the Killer Bees, the Samoan SWAT team, which was Yokozuna and Samu. The Canadian guys, who was LaFont and Doug Furness, great tag team. Benoit would be there with us, Jericho, Owen Hart, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Sabu. I mean, that was the clique that we kind of hung with, me and my partner, because we were all short guys, 5'9", 5'10". You know, we weren't big guys. We were, short guys, but we just made up for it, in our moves and whatever we did. Steiner's also would be there with us, Bam Bam and Vader, Chung Lee, who, Master Chono, Master Saito, Tiger Jet Singh's dad. Okay, I mean, I got to work with these guys. These guys were silver medal, gold medalists, silver medalists. I hurt myself one night. I blew my hamstring, man, I remember. No, actually, I blew my quad. My knee was blown. It was shot. And Master was Suzuki? No, the one that was in the Olympics and won the silver medal. He saw my knee and was like really pissed off. He was just like, "What happened?" I told him what happened, and he started hitting Tiger Jet Singh, one of the referees, Tiger, and he was like, "Why didn't you take him to the hospital?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know," and he's like, "Take him to the fucking hospital," So he took me to the hospital. They just gave me regular X-rays. They didn't give me an MRI, so they couldn't see what was really wrong with my knee. So to them, they're just like, "Oh, bad bruise, bad bruise." So I didn't care because I didn't want to get sent home. I wanted to still stay. So I just kept icing it until the swelling went down. And then I'd had the Black Cat. He was called the Black Cat. He was a tape master. Like, he knew how he could tape. Like, I tore a hamstring once and he would tape my hamstring and he would tape a hamstring to my body so I could still work. That's how amazing this guy was. So what I told him to do is I had dead leg. I couldn't raise sitting down, I could not raise my foot. Okay. Because my quad was completely torn off. So what I told him to do is tape it like a fucking peg leg. You know what I mean? Like a stiff leg. So that's what he did, because we had to wrestle Hasei and Sasaki in the Tokyo Dome in front of 65,000 people. And I wasn't going to miss that. You know what I mean? Hurt or not hurt, I still wrestled. We lost, but we cut the ring off. We wrestled smart, and we still got the respect from the fans, because they would come up to us and they said, "Look, we understand you lost, but you had a good fight, and you didn't back down. You still fought even though you were hurt. I had one leg. I still would body slam him, fall to the ground, roll." Use my other leg, kick him out of the ring, roll outside the ring, I'm hobbling around, but I'm still picking him up and body slamming him on the concrete. I don't care. And then I would tag Anthony and throw him right back in. We would just cut the ring off. It was a good match. We lost, but we still got the respect of the fans. They liked us anyway. So that's how it is in Japan. They respect you, even though you win, lose, or draw, long as you don't act like a baby and you know what I'm saying, and do something stupid where they make fun of you. If you're tough and you give it your all, and they see that, because they sit there and watch you work. They don't clap unless you do something to impress them. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's silence, man. You can hear a pen drop until you do something where they all will stand up and clap for you. That's how it was when I was there, man. It was very different than the States.
I see. And that's pretty cool. I'm glad that you got to have that experience over in Japan. The Japanese crowd is very interesting. But one thing that I do want to ask you, because we're coming kind of close on time here, and one important question, at least to me, if you could have one last dream match as the Pitbulls and to go against anybody from history, who would you choose?
What tag teams of later days or tag teams of today?
Anytime you want, and you can even go with more than one if you'd like.
Well, you got to remember we worked with almost everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I would say I would have liked to have gone against the Young Bucks. I think they'd be fun to work with. Me and my partner would have a good time with them. You got to remember the Briscoes and they used to come to my school. So, you know what I mean? I'm a tag team specialist. So I trained a lot of tag teams, man, in my day. Probably, I don't think we ever worked Demolition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never worked Demolition. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, people don't realize how many people we've been in the ring with, man. It's, I could tell you, I could just go off. Rougeau Brothers, Hart Foundation, British Bulldogs. You name the tag team, we went against them. All Money, you know what I mean? DiBiase, IRS, you know what I mean? The Wyndham Brothers, the Malenkos, the Fantastics, the Rock and Roll Express, Steiners, Legion of Doom. You name the tag team, we went against them.
That's valid.
So it's really hard to say,
It's fair. Scully, any last questions before we start wrapping up?
Not really. I was just going to say, obviously back when you was a team, there was a lot of proper tag teams. There isn't as many anymore. Why do you think the tag team division's not as prominent, I guess?
Ooh, good question.
Well, I remember in Vince McMahon's mind, he would always be like, I got to pay 4 guys instead of 2 guys. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was killing the tag team division when ECW was bringing the tag team division back. Okay, and WCW was bringing it back. I mean, when they were going to sign us, they were signing us for the December pay-per-view. Was going to be our fucking first night out, and they were putting us against the Steiners, and the Steiners were dropping the belts to the Pitbulls on Christmas night. Pay-per-view. That's what they told us, and that's why we said we'll sign a 3-year deal, no problem. Because I knew once we signed that 3-year deal, I knew we would get another 3-year deal. I knew we would. So then we were going to retire, and we were done. So unless Vince wanted to bring us back, like '98, he called us up. They put us against the Headbangers. We had a pretty good match. I thought we had a great match, very easy. They were going to put Terry Reynolds as our manager, and they were supposed to bring us back, but then they never did. So that's when I moved to Melbourne, Australia, and I worked for Hardcore Championship Wrestling there. And I was there for almost a year, and we were the tag team champs there. And the guys that were there were no slouches. The Bruise Brothers were there. The Samoans were there. Canadian tag team was there. Let me see. What else? Who else was there? The Headhunters. I say the Headhunters. Headhunters. They had a good tag. We had a really good tag team division there. And they put the straps on us, just like Puerto Rico. They put the straps on us, man. I don't care where we were, we got the straps. Especially down south. They threw the belts on us in South Atlantic. We were in the stud stable with the tag belts. Nasty Boys chasing us. They always wanted the heels to hold the belts and have the baby faces chase them. That's how it was, old school style. So being a heel, they would always throw the belts on us, So it was cool. I had no problem with it,
That's valid. I really like that. And, I'll be honest with you. I feel like this is the most genuine interview that I've had. You seem like a very genuine person with all this information. You're just giving it to us as it was from how you were back then. And it's just how it is. I kind of like this,
Yeah, I can't tell you what I did 3 minutes ago, but I remember my shit that happened a long time ago, man. You know what I mean? Like Sandman always says, how do you fucking remember this shit? I'm like, I get up and go in the kitchen. I don't know what I got up for, because I've had so many concussions. But I remember what happened in the past, which is crazy because a lot of guys, I mean, I can see it on their face. They feel bad because they don't remember, because that's how fucking messed up we were and how much we partied. I mean, you got to remember when I was in the Vince McMahon's locker room in the late 80s, they didn't even have a drug policy yet. They weren't even testing anybody yet. Okay? It was insanity, man, when I walked in that locker room. I was like, whoa. You know, and then eventually being in all the other locker rooms, it wasn't like that. And then next thing you know, I'm in the ECW locker room, and what a different locker room that was. I mean, I was in the Philly clique, so, you know, we were like, the city was me and my partner city, bro. I ran all the security and all the nightclubs there. So anytime we were in Philly and we went out afterwards, I would take everybody out with us. You know, and we'd get in the clubs for free. We drank for free. I mean, we had everything handed to us. You know what I'm saying? That's why I remember, you know, Vince called us that in 98, and we went, I mean, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I remember Dwayne when he was a little fucking kid. He was like 10 years old or something, you know, or 12 years old. And I met him. Next thing I know, I see him in the locker room. He's a grown man now. And he's like, come on, man, pit bulls, you're going to take me out. You're going to take me out, right? Take me out to Philly, show me fucking a good time, you know? And I look at Anthony. I'm like, dude, we're not taking you out, man. And all we got to do is take you out and you get in trouble. What's going to happen? You know what I mean? Rocky Johnson's going to be knocking on my door. Man. I ain't having that. You know what I mean? I don't want to get in trouble. You know, and then Heartbreak Kid would be like, you know, Shawn Michaels, you know, he's like, oh, Marty told me about you guys. You know, you guys are partiers, man. You're going to take me out. Take me out. I look at my partner and I'll be blunt, you know. Why would I take Shawn Michaels out? So then the next day he tells everybody what we did, you know, just to shit on us, you know, make us get in trouble, and Vince don't want to hire us, you know what I'm saying? So what did we do? We were tight with Steve Austin. He's my boy. He would be at my house. Steve Austin would come hang out with me at my house before we would go to the ECW arena, because I was only about 10 blocks away, my house. So we would party at my place, Rick Rude, Mongo. Anybody that went through ECW would always be at my house, in the Pitbull's house. And we you know, and that's how it was. I mean, we had a reputation. If you're in Philadelphia, you get with the Pitbulls and you're going to have a good time.
Hell yeah. But all right, so we're getting towards the end of the show here. So last question that we'll ask you interview-wise, sir. Do you have any recommendations for the audience this week? So it can be anything: movie, TV show, video game, poem, recipe, food, cat breed. I don't care. Anything that really says something about you, man.
Well, I had to change my diet recently, and I love pizza. So I decided, what can I do to satisfy that urge without causing problems to my health? So I buy a couple pounds of ground chicken, put it in a pan, flatten it as flat as I possibly can. I bake that, take that out. So you got that instead of having dough, that's what I use, chicken. Then I throw sauce, cheese, everything that you want on a pizza back in the oven for about 15, 20 minutes, take it out. It's like a chicken parm. So you guys can eat your pizza, cheat, and still get your protein. So that's my secret recipe that I'm giving out to you guys.
Awesome. Greatly appreciate
it. Before I put my cookbook out. But don't forget, brothers, also, just so you know, I am interested in wrestling the Billington Boys.
Really?
Yeah, I just signed a new tag team partner. He's Pitbull 3, because Pitbull 2 did pass away in 2003. So I just signed finally a Pitbull 3, and we are interested in going against the Billington Boys. So step up, shut up, and get in the ring with the Pitbulls. I think we'll make history like we did with the Bulldogs. I think it would be a good thing. I love Dynamite. He was a really cool dude. I got along with him and Davey Boy very much. Also, I own the Women's Hall of Fame, and I own the Tag Team Hall of Fame. And we're going to be inducting Saraya Page's mom, Julia. Is that her name, her first name?
I think so.
Yeah, we're going to be inducting her into the Women's Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And we're going to make her part of the Pit Bulls Mad Dogs of War. So when we need a girl, she's going to wrestle with us. So we're going to use some England people with us. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. And where can some people reach you to talk about this kind of stuff or just get in contact with you?
Yeah, just hit me up. My Facebook page, Pitbull. It says Gary Wolf, and you'll see me standing there. Also, I have an email, pitbull, lowercase, GW, 67GW, gmail.com. Like I said, you guys are looking for a good read. Amazon, Walmart, you name it, Barnes and Noble. Everybody's got my book out. Go get the book. I'm trying to get number one. I'm a number 6 right now out of wrestling books. I want to get to be number 1. So let's get that. I'm going to make that happen. I'm still doing signings. I'm still doing wrestling in the ring. Any promoters need to get in touch with me, they can go through you. You can contact me, brother. I have no problem with that, whatever goes through. So,
heck yeah, man. Greatly appreciated. Scully, do you have any recommendations for this week?
I don't know.
That's all right. I'll cover for you, man. So I tried something interesting this week, something I never thought I would try. Kangaroo steak. If anybody can get out there and get your hands on some, give it a try. It's not bad. Mr. Wolf, have you ever tried any?
No, I did buffalo burgers in California. They were amazing.
Yeah.
I never did kangaroo. Samoans took me out in Japan, me and my partner, our first tour, and they ribbed us. I'll tell you a quick story. They ribbed us and said, we're going to buy you steaks. And we're like, oh, cool, So, we eat like 2 each. And next thing you know, we started feeling funny. We're like, man, I don't feel right, And he's like, well, you ate fucking enough horse tonight for like 2 weeks. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you ate horse. I was like, oh my God. I got sick, man. I had to go throw up, man, because I felt like I was going to puke anyway. So they got me good on that, me and my partner. So
that's pretty awesome.
I don't advise that.
I did eat something that was nice yesterday, actually, which I've never had. And it was called a 2-in-1 pie.
Oh, God.
So it was like in a big pot like this. We had it at like a pub restaurant near me. It was £18 for a large one. So it's just like that. And it was half and half in the pot. So half of it, I had steak and kidney in there. And this half was cauliflower and cheese. And then on the top of here, it had a bit of pastry. And it was really nice. The only sad thing is it would have been better if it had pastry around the side as well. But yeah, that was
sounds
good.
Pretty good. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, it was nice. And I was very full up after having a couple of ciders with it as well.
Of course.
That's valid. But all right. So Scully, where can the people reach you, man?
Well, wherever they want on X, which I don't really go on anymore. I'm on there, Michael Scully 86, and I'm also on TikTok. As you know, I do silly videos, Mav. And yeah, that's about it, really. And I think we're going to make a Wrestle Magic channel, aren't we?
Looking to at some point. Yeah, we'd like to make a YouTube channel and a TikTok if we can soon. But yeah, enough about that for the moment. You guys know where to reach me at Maintenance Mav on Twitter. Like I always say before signing off, do something nice for somebody. You never know who needs it out there. Somebody always needs something, man.
Always be humble, guys. Always.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
But yeah, in the words of my friend Memphis Mark, we're out.